The morning we buried my husband, it rained. Not a soft, gentle rain. The kind that soaks through everything, through your coat, through your skin, through the part of you that was still holding on. I stood by that grave with 47 people around me and felt completely alone. Daniel had been my person for 11 years. My partner. My home. The one who made ordinary Tuesday evenings feel like something worth remembering. He was 41 years old when his heart simply stopped. No warning. No goodbye. Just a phone call, a hospital, and then silence. In those first hours after he passed, I did what you do. I called family. I made arrangements. I signed papers I didn't fully read because grief had hollowed me out completely, and I was running purely on autopilot. Our house felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. His coffee mug still sat on the counter. His shoes were still by the door. I told myself, get through the funeral. Just get through it. And I did. But what I didn't know that day was that the hardest moment wasn't standing at that grave. It wasn't choosing between lilies and roses for the casket. It wasn't even the drive home in silence. The hardest moment was coming. It arrived 3 days after the funeral, wearing a gray suit and carrying a leather folder. My father-in-law, Raymond, knocked on my door at 10 in the morning like he owned the place. Which, as I would soon learn, he believed he did. Raymond and I had never been close. He was the kind of man who filled every room with his opinions and left no space for anyone else's. Daniel used to laugh it off. That's just Dad, he'd say. But I always sensed something underneath it. A quiet resentment. Like he never quite approved of me. Like I was always a guest in his son's life rather than the woman who shared it. He sat down at my kitchen table, opened that leather folder, and slid a document across to me. I've had the will reviewed, he said. Under estate law A. I want to be honest about what came next, because it wasn't immediate fire or fury. It was something slower and more devastating than that. I went numb. I sat across from my father-in-law and I nodded. I told him I would look into it. I even offered him tea, because that is what grief does to you, it makes you polite when you should be screaming. After he left, I sat on the kitchen floor for a very long time. Daniel and I had built this life together. We had chosen this house together, a small place with a big garden and a porch where we used to sit on summer nights. We had painted every room ourselves. I had sanded those floorboards with my own hands. We had laughed and argued and loved inside these walls for 8 years. And now his father was telling me it wasn't mine. That night, I called my sister. She told me not to panic. She said to find the will. So I did. I went to the drawer where Daniel kept important documents, the same drawer he always told me about. If anything ever happens, everything you need is right here. He had said that so casually, the way you say things you don't think will ever matter. I pulled out a sealed envelope with my name written in his handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was Daniel's official, notarized will, signed 18 months before he passed, updated after we had renovated the house together. And it was perfectly clear. Devastatingly, beautifully clear. Everything was left to me. The house. The savings account. The small investment policy he had set up quietly and never made a fuss about. All of it. To his wife. I read it 3 times. Then I called a solicitor, a woman named Patricia who came highly recommended and who, within the first 10 minutes of our call, confirmed what I already knew. Raymond had not had the will reviewed. Raymond had misread it. Or perhaps, and this thought sat in my chest like a stone, he had chosen to present it differently than it truly was. Within a week, we had filed a formal legal response, submitted the authenticated will, and issued a cease and desist to Raymond's solicitor, because of course he had won. Of course he had already taken steps. Raymond's response came through his lawyer in clipped, formal language. He contested the will. He claimed Daniel had not been of sound mind. He suggested the document may have been improperly executed. Every single claim was rejected. The notary who had witnessed Daniel sign that will was still practicing. The date of signing was documented, verified, and completely watertight. Daniel had been in perfect health, mentally sharp and clear, 18 months before he died. There was nothing to contest. The legal process took 4 months. 4 months of letters and phone calls and a single, deeply uncomfortable mediation meeting where Raymond sat across a table from me for the last time, and I watched him realize, slowly, that he had nothing. The case was closed in my favor. The house remained mine. Every penny Daniel had left me, mine. Raymond walked away from that mediation room a different man than he had walked in. The confidence was gone. The folder was empty. And for just a moment, as he passed me in the corridor, he paused. He didn't apologize. Men like Raymond rarely do. But he looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it. The thing beneath the entitlement. The smallness of it. The shame. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. That evening, I sat on my porch for the first time in months. The garden needed work. The hanging pot Daniel had put up the spring before he passed was still there, a little rusted at the bracket. I made a cup of tea and I sat, and I let myself feel everything. The grief was still there. It will always be there. But underneath it now was something else, something solid and quiet and mine. Daniel always said, the truth doesn't need a loud voice. It just needs to be told. I think about that.